To begin, here are the three main goals of any scientific field. The first goal is to investigate and understand the natural world. There's so many things around us that are happening, and it's up to the scientific community to try to figure out why and how these things are happening. The second goal is to explain the events in the natural world. So naturally, after investigating, their job is to explain the events and hopefully communicate it outside of the scientific community. And the third and final goal is to use these explanations to make useful predictions. What could possibly happen next with the knowledge that they have gained? So what sets science apart from the rest of the other fields? Well, science is different, number one, because it only deals with the natural world. Number two, they're collecting and organizing information in a careful, orderly way. And number three, they're using that information to create explanations that can be tested by looking at the evidence that they receive. Now, with all the features that we've just discussed from the previous slides, we can now receive an actual definition of science. According to your textbooks, science is an organized way of using evidence to learn about the natural world. The organized way, as you may already know, is also called the scientific method. Now, once the scientific method is applied and they've reached a conclusion, that is not the end-all be-all. Science is continually changing. It's an ongoing process. So a good scientist always has to be skeptical. They always have to look for new ideas and be open to new hypotheses. Now, let's take a look at the scientific method, also known as the organized way. It begins with, number one, a problem. What is it that you want to find more about? The problem is usually in the form of a question. If you have a question, you naturally want an answer. The answer is part number two, the hypothesis, your educated guess, your possible answer to the problem. Number three is the procedure. The procedure are the steps to the experiment that you must follow. We're going to take a look at a special type of experiment called a controlled experiment. And there are three parts of a controlled experiment. The first part of a controlled experiment is known as the manipulated or independent variable. It is also known as the cause of the change. You change it on purpose because you are the experimenter. So examples of manipulated variables could be temperature. You can change the temperature in an environment, or the amount of light. You can purposely change the amount of light in an environment as well. It's very important to keep in mind that there should only be one manipulated variable in an experiment. The second part of a controlled experiment is the responding or dependent variable, also known as the effect, because it changes because of the cause. For example, the height of a plant. If you purposely change the amount of light or the temperature in an environment, it can possibly affect the height of a plant. So again, the responding or dependent variable is always the effect. The third and final part of a controlled experiment is the control group. The control group does not receive anything. It is only used for comparison purposes. Now that we've looked at the procedure for a controlled experiment, we continue on with the last remaining steps of the scientific method. Number 4, data. You should be collecting data while you're performing the actual experiment. Using that data, it leads us into number 5, creating a conclusion. And lastly, number 6, publishing the results. You publish your results so that others can see your findings and other scientists could possibly copy your experiment. In the scientific community, the same experiments are always performed over and over and over again. Some hypotheses may be the same, others may be different. But if the same experiment is performed over and over and over again, and the same hypothesis is proven over and over and over again, that hypothesis eventually becomes what is known as a theory. A theory in science is different from a theory in everyday language. A theory in science is considered to be more like a law that you follow. It is true, it is fact. A theory in everyday language is more like a hypothesis, it's like a guess. So we have to make sure that we are able to distinguish between theory in science versus theory in everyday language. Again, a theory in science is a law. It's something that we follow. It is pure fact. Can it change? Sure. It can be expanded upon. It can change a little bit as ideas change, but we still are going to treat it as if it was a law. The last couple of slides for the presentation for Chapter 1 are going to be discussed in class, so there's no need to take notes or anything. I hope you enjoyed the video, your first video for Chapter 1, and there will definitely be more to come.